4C, and I know a lot of you guys are like, you always do dreadlocks in the 4 range, and it's because it's more typical. It's more, a lot of people with this hair type have dreadlocks because it's more suitable. Now, I say this all the time, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I know people ask this question all the time. If you have straight hair, can you get dreadlocks? Of course you can. And if you have curly hair, can you get dreadlocks as well? Yes, you can. Any hair type from 1 all the way to 4C can get dreadlocks. Now, in this case, he does have a 4C hair type, and like I said, it is more suitable just because it's more easy for the hair to lock up because it naturally wants to. Now, everybody's hair naturally wants to lock up. That's why we have products like combs and conditioners, because people's hair naturally wants to lock up. I know a lot of people say white people can't get dreadlocks or people with straight hair can't get dreadlocks, and really it's just a big lie, because first off, they can. Second off, it's okay. If you want to get dreadlocks, go ahead and do it. But enough about my stance on straight hair dreadlocks. Let's get into the method. And the method is really predicated or based on the hair type. It's easy to tell how someone started their dreadlocks when you understand their hair type. So it's easy for you looking at yourself. Based on your hair type, what method do you want to choose? If you have a straight hair, you typically want to run with the straight hair method. And if you have curly hair, you want to go with the curly hair method. And if you have hair like his, which is a 4C, you want to go with the method that's suitable for him. Now, if you want to know more about that, make sure to join the Dreadlocks Masterclass. And if you simply just want to know your hair type, make sure to click the link down below that says what is my hair type, and I'll explain it to you. Now, the method that he chose, based on his hair type, he did most likely do a twisting method. But what's interesting about his dreadlocks is that it doesn't look like he used any product with his dreadlocks. And the reason being is because his hair doesn't have like a sheen or a very moisturized look to it. I know a lot of you are going to say, well, it's because he has a 4C hair type. And yes, of course, that has a part to play in it. But if you look at his dreadlocks, they look as if he just kind of twisted them into position and then they eventually locked up. And then kind of leads me on to like his hairstyle. He doesn't really do much to his hair just because obviously it's short, and that's one thing to note as well. It's most likely not short, it's just that his hair is locking up in the process of being 4C, which 4C always typically appears short in the beginning stages because of how tight the curl pattern is. But back to the reason why I believe he didn't use any gel, at least for the beginning stages, is just because he didn't have that clean of sections. You didn't see the sections all the way down to the scalp. I mean, you've seen a little bit. And another thing is that his dreadlocks are very fluffy and kind of puffed up, not super maintained. And the thing about his hair type is if he were to do twisting with gel, then his dreadlocks would be nicely maintained, very tight. But guys, that does go to show that with this hair type being 4C, like gel really isn't that necessary. Gel is typically for those people that have hard to lock hair. Anybody from, you know, maybe a 3A all the way to possibly, I would say, a 4A. But if I'm completely honest, with the 4C hair type, it's not 100% necessary to use any product whatsoever. And I can be honest even further and say that it's not necessary to use any products whatsoever on any hair type. There's methods you can do to avoid using products. And the reason I want to avoid using products a lot of the time is to remove any buildup during the locking process. Now, of course, I'm not saying don't use any products whatsoever. I'm just saying you can be very minimal with your products. And what I mean by products is any locking gels, any oils, and so on and so forth, because your scalp naturally produces oils. And most of the time, you don't have to put anything additional to your scalp. Now, of course, you want to wash your hair and you want to wash it on a good schedule. But mostly you hear me talking about staying away from products and digging more into tools like a crochet hook or an interlocking tool or even a dread sponge. These are all tools and they're not products. They are tools that help your dreadlocks progress without putting anything into your hair. So then your hair has more of an organic feel and more of a comfortable feel, not as heavy, very light, and healthy at the same time because it's natural. Now guys, moving into maintenance with his hair, what does he do? And typically with maintenance, it references back to the method that they chose in order to get the dreadlocks. And I feel like with him, he does just twisting. And I feel like now he's getting more into twisting with gel, but during the beginning stages, he didn't really use much gel. That's why we see his tips and a little bit of the length of his dreadlocks not looking too maintained. They look more freeform-like, but they are sectioned out. And the roots now are looking a little bit more maintained because I'm pretty sure he's using gel now. And we've seen this with so many people. We've seen this with Sway Lee starting out with a semi-freeform look. We've seen this with Playboy Cardi, which an update on him is coming out this Sunday. But we've seen it with countless people that have started their dreadlocks with a semi-freeform style. So guys, just an overview of YNW BSlime's dreadlocks. He has the 4C hair type. He twists typically with no gel, which is very common. And his hairstyle is pretty much just wearing it down because he needs a little bit more length. But with the length that he has now, he could be braiding his hair. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts doing that now. I do want to mention that he does have a high top fade, which